If the Marlins ace pitcher is available at this year's deadline, is this something the Red Sox should jump on? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and with Sandy Alcantara on the IL, the Marlins ace has now become Jesús Luzardo. However, this season, the Marlins have also been stinking it up, meaning that Jesús Luzardo has become one of the most talked about names to be traded at this year's deadline, which could create the perfect opportunity for the Red Sox to swoop in and get themselves a piece for the future. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to break this down a little bit. We're going to look at a Red Sox Luzardo trade, talk about why it would make sense for Boston, what are some of the concerns with it, and if this trade is even possible. But before we get into that, just a heads up, we are going to be live tonight on this channel watching the Red Sox take on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to be talking about whether or not the Red Sox should buy or sell at the deadline. We'll be talking a whole lot of Red Sox stuff as well as watching the game. So again, just a heads up, it is tonight 7 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Now, if you've been around this channel for a little bit now, the name Jesús Luzardo isn't a new one to you. We've talked about Luzardo coming to the Red Sox for a little bit now. Specifically this offseason, he was my personal #1 target for the Red Sox to look at going into 2024. Obviously, that didn't end up happening, but that doesn't mean that they don't have any other opportunities to get him. In fact, Ken Rosenthal last Wednesday on Foul Territory singled Jesús Luzardo out as the single most likely player to be traded at this year's deadline, not just on the Marlins, but of all 30 MLB teams. Ken Rosenthal essentially said there is no possible way Jesús Luzardo is in a Marlins uniform come August 1st, and this could create a prime opportunity for the Boston Red Sox. Now, we don't exactly know which way the Red Sox are leaning going into this year's deadline, mostly because the team has been leaning both ways the entire season. Our hope as fans is that we don't end up in sort of trade line purgatory like we have over the last couple of years, right? 22 was buying and selling, worked out pretty well, but it wasn't exactly impactful at the time. 2023, you essentially did absolutely nothing aside from Luis Urias, which didn't end up doing all that much. As fans, you either want the team to sell and get pieces for the future or buy and push towards a playoff spot. We don't really know what that is right now. In my opinion, though, either way the Red Sox are looking at it, Jesús Luzardo could be a perfect fit. Mostly because Luzardo isn't a short-term fix, he's a long-term solution. This season, he started off a bit slow for the lefty hurler. He has a 4.18 ERA with a bit lower 3.64 FIP, meaning he's actually outperforming his ERA right now in 9 starts, good for a 103 ERA plus. Technically the lowest ERA plus so far that he's had throughout his career dating back to 2021, and it's good for about 3% above league average when it comes to production on the mound. So not exactly a stellar start for Jesús Luzardo. On top of that, he has an 8.7 strikeouts per 9 right now, which is a career low, and a 2.8 walks per 9, which is right in line with his career average and exactly the same as it was last year. Those stats may not be the most exciting in the world. They may not jump off the page or be something where you're like, oh my God, the Red Sox need this guy now, but a lot of that could be contributed to a rocky April. In fact, the difference in month-to-month comparison is pretty impressive. He had a 6.58 ERA in 5 starts in April compared to just a 1.75 ERA in 4 starts in May. He settled in a bit on the mound and is absolutely dominating. Batters went from a 828 OPS against him in April to a 477 OPS in May. He almost cut his opponent OPS in half over the course of the last month. Basically, what I'm saying is, despite the overall stats for Luzardo, he's put up this season, he's still an elite pitching talent with a whole lot of potential. But why does he make sense for the Boston Red Sox? Well, there's a few reasons why. The first one, you can always make your rotation better. I know a lot of people are going into the comments right now and saying, Corbin, we don't need a pitcher. The Red Sox need a bat to put in the middle of their lineup. Well, yes, the rotation has been one of the best in in baseball right now, but there's always opportunities to improve and get better. What's the difference between a team that has the number 5 ERA in the league and a team that has the number 2 or number 3 ERA in the league? That's a couple more wins that the Red Sox could desperately use. Number 2, because like I mentioned earlier, Luzardo wouldn't be a short-term solution to help push the Red Sox into a playoff position this season, although it certainly wouldn't hurt the Red Sox chances of doing so. Luzardo is under arbitration until 2027, giving the Red Sox 2 more years of control over him. He becomes a longer-term solution to a really interesting Red Sox problem over the next couple of years. If the Red Sox are truly building for 2025 and beyond, Luzardo could be a perfect fit to man the front of this rotation as they grow and become a legitimate contender in Major League Baseball. And number 3, the Red Sox don't really have any lefty options in the rotation for the foreseeable future. Zach Penrod has been absolutely killing it in minor league baseball this year and could be a lefty option for the Red Sox going forward, but he's no guarantee to be able to perform in Major League Baseball, especially the way Jesús Luzardo has so far throughout his career. And 2, he's about the same age as Jesús Luzardo is now, just with much less experience. Adding Luzardo would give the Red Sox not only a very solid statistical pitcher near the top of their rotation, but also more versatility in there as well, which could be really important as we move forward here. Now, Jesús Luzardo is not a perfect pitcher. There's not really any perfect pitchers in Major League Baseball right now. Everyone has a fault somewhere, and for Jesús Luzardo, part of that fault is his injury history, making it a bit risky to trade for him based on that. Over the course of his career, he's had his fair share of arm injuries, starting in 2016 where he had Tommy John surgery in high school, but also over the last couple of years, he's had a rotator cuff and a lat strain in 2019. He had a forearm strain in 2022, and it would be a bit of a risk health-wise trading for Jesús Luzardo, but the upside may make him worth it. The question now becomes, what would it cost to get Jesús Luzardo onto the Boston Red Sox, and would this trade even be possible? But before we get into that, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here and you like the content, we talk Sox almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit that like button as well. Not only does it help these videos out a ton, but it's the best way to let me know that you're enjoying this type of content. Thank you all very much for doing so. Let's talk about what it would take to get Luzardo. In terms of what it would take to get Luzardo on the Boston Red Sox, there's some good and bad news here. The bad news is it would probably take a pretty decent amount, right? Jesús Luzardo has been solid statistically. His potential is pretty massive, and he still has about 2.5 years of control at the time of this video. It's not going to be easy for the Red Sox to acquire Jesús Luzardo. Now, the good news is, though, with the Marlins being kind of terrible, there's a lot of different options here for the Red Sox to meet the Marlins' need. In fact, a trade could look a million different ways in order to get Luzardo to the Boston Red Sox. Here's an example of what he could possibly be worth. As you can see, the Red Sox could kind of get away with avoiding using any of their top 10 prospects hypothetically. Now, this trade specifically might not be exactly what gets it done, but it could be exactly what the Marlins are looking for in terms of value. This trade includes Nick York, Josh Winkowski, Reese McGuire, and Greg Weissert going to Miami for Jesús Luzardo. Now, the reason these players are specifically included is, one, because the Miami Marlins bullpen is one of the worst in Major League Baseball right now. They currently rank 21st in bullpen ERA. This trade gives the Miami Marlins 2 pretty solid bullpen pieces to bolster that bullpen for a longer period of time. A prospect just out of the top 10 in the Red Sox farm system in Nick York, a guy who could possibly get to Major League Baseball by the end of this year and early into next year, being a longer-term solution at the plate, hopefully, for the Miami Marlins. And Reese McGuire, one, because the Red Sox have Kyle Teel tearing it up in the minor leagues right now, but 2, because the Miami Marlins are getting absolutely nothing production-wise from their catching position. Reese McGuire hasn't been the best hitter this year, but he would give them a little bit something more, and he is still a fairly solid defender. In my opinion, this trade might actually work for both sides. However, again, it is just sort of a framework of a trade and not an actual trade itself. There's 100 different combinations you could possibly make in order to entice the Miami Marlins to trade Jesús Luzardo. And to be honest with you, I don't know if this trade has enough star power for the Marlins to want want to part with someone who could be towards the top of their rotation for the next 3 years. It's a bit tricky because of what his overall potential value could look like for 2025 and 2026. But as of right now, this could be something the Red Sox could do. Now the question becomes, is this something the Red Sox would do? Is this something that is actually possible? And to be honest with you, I don't think it's entirely impossible. Here's the way I'm looking at the Red Sox deadline right now. There's probably genuinely a 50-50 chance that the Red Sox either buy or sell, mostly because the Red Sox are just sort of dead down the middle right now when it comes to what their playoff chances look like, right? They're dead even on the season. They're dead even in almost every single category. You could go one of two ways. They could either continuously get better to bring themselves into a postseason position, or they could continually get worse. And by the time we get to the MLB trade deadline, it's pretty obvious that the Red Sox are going to have to sell. However, even if they end up selling, the Red Sox aren't exactly trying to win a World Series this year, right? What they're trying to do this season is set themselves up to compete in 25 and 26, and Jesús Luzardo absolutely does that. On top of that, even if the Red Sox do end up making a big move at the deadline, I don't think it's going to be for a short-term rental like we talked about to push them into the postseason just this year. They're looking for someone who's going to make an impact on this team for the foreseeable future. In my opinion, Jesús Luzardo kind of perfectly fits that bill. Do I think it's likely that the Red Sox make a big splash at this year's deadline? I don't. I think it's most likely going to end up being, if they do add anybody, either prospects in a full team sell-off, or they're going to be adding in very small doses to the current lineup / rotation in order to try and give it a couple more wins and hopefully push it into a final wild card spot. However, again, I just can't get Jesús Luzardo out of my brain. Jesús Luzardo in a Red Sox uniform would be absolutely fantastic. It would do wonders for not only this team right now, but the team going forward. And I do think there is a slight possibility here that the Red Sox decide this is the perfect opportunity to make that move. Not only does it save them money going into next offseason, it also gives them a lefty potential ace at the top of their rotation, and it allows you to make a move now in order to continue to build towards 2025 and 2026. It just feels like such a perfect fit, not only for this year's team, but for the next coming teams as well, which is why I just can't sit here and say it's impossible that the Red Sox decide to make a bold move at this year's deadline, regardless of where they're at in this year's standings. And I think that's the biggest reason to me why I refuse to take this possibility off the table, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of this? Do you think it's possible the Red Sox look into trading who Kent Rosenthal called the single most likely player to be traded this year? What do you think it would take to get Jesús Luzardo? And do you think this is something the Red Sox would be willing to do? Let me know all your thoughts on the possibility of trading for Luzardo in the comment section down below. As always, like I said, if you made it to the end here, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button as well. Like I said, it helps these videos out a ton. It lets me know that you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, we are going to be live tonight on this channel right around 7 p.m. Eastern time for the start of the Braves Red Sox series. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.